Hello everyone, I'm Melanie with Painting Crafty, and today we're going to continue on with our farm animal series. We've done a goose, we've done a landscape of a barn, and so today I thought I would throw in a little bit of a blue chicken. I have no idea if there's such thing as a blue chicken. You could make this in any color you wanted to, tones of blacks, grays, you could do a little red hen, whatever you think you might like to do, but I'm going to show you the drawing steps. I'm going to break down the shapes so it's easy to follow along, and then afterwards I'm going to show you a little bit of watercolor techniques to add the pretty little colors and some textures to this little hen. So I'm going to first break down the drawing steps, but once you get it drawn, you can use any type of material, your favorite material, to paint it. So it could be acrylic paint, watercolor pencils, colored pencils, sky's the limit when it comes to art supplies. For those who might want to have a little bit of help to draw, I do have a Ko-fi page, which is like a Patreon page. That's where I have my subscription page for my tracers. So any of the drawings that I do for my YouTube page, that's where you're going to be able to find the tracers for that. You can just find the description as well, that link in the description of this draw along. So let's go ahead and start with our little hen. We'll do with the shapes. We're going to start there first. So this is what your tracer would look like once you received it. What we're going to do first is we're going to start with a circle. Here I have divided my paper off down the middle in the crossway here. And again, I divided it up in a few more spots so that if you would like a little extra help for drawing, that just gives you an idea of what proportions. Now, you don't have to even draw it this big. All right, we're going to start out with this circle. Here is my cross it. You can kind of see it's a little bit sideways. It's not exactly round. So let's start with there. So if I have my paper, whatever you might be drawing on, what I would start out with is just drawing a line down the center, drawing it across. I'm going to divide this off again. Now you can just eyeball this. You can measure it. I measured mine, but you most certainly can eyeball it. Now let's go ahead and start with this circle right here first. So here's my center point. I've got more of my circle down low here and less of my circle in that quadrant. So I'm going to shoot for the same thing. So I'm going to come down here and draw my circle. This is going to come up. This would be the back part of where her tail is going. It sometimes helps to do little sketch motions to get my hand warmed up, and then I'm not exactly going to have to be married to a certain shape when I put it down. So we have the little body done. Now let's put the shape for her head in. This is going to be just kind of a gradual upside down U shape right here. I'm going to keep it below that line there. So I'm going to start up here, although it doesn't really make a difference. You can still draw whatever makes sense for your paper, but I'm just going to draw a shape that looks something like that. Now let's go ahead and pop her tail in. So this shape is going to be an elongated U that's going to come up, and that's going to be her tail. So let's go ahead and put her little tail in. So I'm going to start here for the back where her tail is coming up, elongated U shape, and then come down. So we have some real basic shapes that are building our chicken. Now let's go ahead and put some of the detail in. Let's take a look at what might make an interesting tail. I've got a little bit of a point here at the top, and then a little bit of some ruffle lines that are coming down. That's just going to help me build my chicken out when I paint her. So I would start here. I would do kind of a point at this end. Then I would gradually start doing a little bit of ruffles. Now, if it makes sense, you want to come out a little ways, you could come out, build up your tail, and then I'm going to end it about there. Now on this side, I'm going to be adding just a few little bits of ruffles as well, like so. There we have that line. Now when we actually paint our chicken, we won't be seeing this drawn line there. So I would erase this line. So this would become erased. And now we would open that area up. Whatever lines that you don't think you want to keep, you could kind of erase them now, or you could wait for a final erase of when you're going to be drawing or right before you paint. Now let's take a look at her head and see what we've got going here. So here was my lines that I started with my shape. I've got kind of that simple line drawings too of some little bumps, a little bit of a ruffle. This one goes all the way across when I'm at the top of her head. I'm going to create some dimension by putting her comb on, and then it just connects here. So let's add a few more ruffles to my chick. I'm going to come here, some ruffles to this back of her head. This is where that comb is going to be, so I'm going to make it come all the way around, and then I'm just going to end it here. So we'd have our little head on. Now let's put in her comb and her eye part and then her wattle. The wattle's going to give it more of a chicken look as well. So the comb's going to go on top. We're going to I'm going to come up to a sideways here, come back down, wiggle it back and forth a little bit. You can make your comb as fancy as you want it. I actually give it a little bit of a whippy-do at the top. Go ahead and add the little spot that's her eye. So this patch is going to come in here. It's another U shape. It's going to come back into her face and go around. So I'm going to take a look here probably about either like right around her comb area. I'm going to come in to give her that little patch of where her eye is. Now I need to decide what is going to be the front of my chicken. Where is my front line going? I'm thinking I'm going to create that as her front line right here. So this area right here is going to be where my beak is. I'm going to come off. I'm going to go straight, point it down just a little ways. And then I'm going to come back around to face my chicken. Now you can get a little bit fancy with this beak if you want to. You could come down, give it a little bit of a hook, and then down. I'll bring this one in closer so you can kind of see how I did that. I did out a little ways, then I went down. I gave it a little bit of a bump up and then back down into my face is how I did it. To be a smaller eyes, because chickens don't have really big eyes. I would draw a centerpiece here to divide my beak off like that. Now we need to put that wattle part in. So the wattle has two pieces, or I drew it that way. It has one that is a little bit longer, and then there's one that's coming behind it. So one in front, one behind. I'm going to start here, do the front one. It's going to come down. It's just kind of like a half of a heart shape. And then to do my next one, I'm going to come here and I'm going to make it slightly shorter, not as wide. So then it looks like it's behind there. Now I would go ahead and this line would become erased. Whatever's in the center of my chicken would be erased. I need to decide on which lines am I keeping, which lines am I going to be erasing. So you're just going to kind of take a look at your chick, see what makes sense. Now we're going to give her some feathers inside of her neckline here. So you would create a little bit of a feather line. I'm going to be painting her, but I'm also going to be adding some pen work in there to develop that area a little bit more. So you would just create some sort of feather line. Now we need to do her legs. And if we take a look at her legs, they are just a little bit, if you think of kind of like the bottom of an egg, actually, or a round part of an egg where it's going to be swooping down a little bit and coming across. This is going to carry across here. And then we're going to have one that has to be behind because her legs aren't quite like right next to each other. So then this one is developed here. So we're only going to see part of that and then come back down. So let's draw them easily on this one. So we would come down and let's draw this part here. So this is like that egg shape I was talking about. So we have one there. This comes up into her chest again. Now to do that little back one, we're just going to do the same shape, but a little bit smaller. We wouldn't see that whole part of that area. And then let's go ahead and attach her legs. Now her legs are going to be slightly thinner. Well, they're going to be thinner here. They can come at an angle, a little bit at an angle if you would like to. And then we're going to have that three-pronged foot. So we're going to come out this way, and then there's going to be one front. And there's usually like this bulbous end at the end of a chicken foot, or end of a chicken toe, I guess is what they would be called. A toe area, a little bit of a bulbous, come back like that. And then we would do the three things here as well. A little bit of a bulbous area. And then they're going to have those little sharp toenails on the end there. Now, you can get as much detail as you would like in here. I don't usually put a lot of detail into my chicken feet at all. Now, I'm not going to do much work for a wing. I'm going to be creating some texture inside of my hen, so it looks like she's got a little bit of texture on her belly. And I'm going to be creating a few more texture lines with my watercolor and not necessarily building a side wing in. But you could easily put your wing in here and have it come back and paint your wing in or draw your wing in, whatever you would like to do, and then just do some simple work there. So there's lots of different options of how much of the chicken that you want to actually draw. So I already have mine drawn. So again, if you would like to have a tracer, you could always go over to my Ko-fi page. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed and you find this helpful or interesting and building your drawing and watercolor skills or your painting skills, and if you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you ring the bell. That way you'll get notifications of when I put up a new video. All super helpful. So let's go ahead and look at what I'm going to be using for watercolor today. So today I'm doing a little bit different. I'm going to be using right out of the tube. They're going to be using some wet color, and I'm going to be using two different colors of blue, Prussian blue and ultramarine blue. I'm using an orange, cadmium orange, and a red, crimson red. And I'm going to just pick up a little bit of brown in my palette, but I'm going to be using wet paint to help create a little bit of texture onto my painting. So usually I use in the pans, I usually use that, but today I'm going to be trying a little bit of this. Now, when you mix orange and blue together, you're going to get some shades of brown, and that's one of the reasons why I chose it, so I could get some blue shades and some brown shades. I'm going to just start out with the brightest blue I have. With watercolor, you always start with your lightest colors and then work darker. So ultramarine blue is the color I'm going to start with. I'm going to be creating some extra texture by way I put on my colors and the way I use my brushes. So I'm going to be laying these colors in. This is my lightest, brightest blue. And this was the ultramarine blue. It's a very pretty color. So I've got a nice blue layer started. And then I'm going to be taking a little bit of that blue as well and picking up just an ever so slightly bit of the Prussian blue. So now my paper is wet and my colors are wet that I just put on. So I'm going to have more of a wet on wet blending. So my colors are going to blend by themselves and do some things that on their own that I don't really have much control over, but it's going to be the beauty of watercolor is that layering and letting go of some of the control of how your colors flow. So I'm just laying in this next color, building up my layers. She's already looking really pretty. Okay, let's add a few more layers here. And then I'm going to be taking out that little scruffy brush and creating a few more texture lines. Okay, so there she's got her belly on. I'm thinking I'm going to bring it in just a tiny bit more here. Okay, I'm going to let those colors dry a little bit, but I'm going to take a scruffy brush that I have. Now this is just a little kid's brush actually. It's a hog hair. It's nothing like a super fancy brush at all. It's a really inexpensive brush. I'm going to take a little bit of this cadmium orange right off to the side here. And this is a dry brush. There's no water on here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to do a little bit of chop motion back and forth. And I'm going to create a little bit of texture on her breast. Then I'm going to be picking up a little bit of my blue. Again, I'm going to be tapping it in. Now this color is going to make a really kind of a fun mixture of blue and the orange is going to make an interesting color for a brown. Now I'm going to take a little bit of water now that I've got that tapped in, and I'm going to go ahead and add that water. I'm picking up a little bit more blue as I'm doing this and tapping it in. So I'm picking up a little bit more of that color. I'm going to take a little bit of that, the darker, the Prussian blue even, and adding a little bit of that color in there. I'm going to come out to my side here where it's a little wet, and I'm going to add just a little bit more of those textures, even kind of down into her belly. I'm not so much concerned about leaving a lot of white in here, but I'm looking for a little bit more texture, so you can see how that's kind of really coming together. Now, while that's still wet, I'm going to pick up my blues again. I'm going to take my brightest blue here, maybe a little bit more, less water, a little bit more pigment. I'm going to come back in to my feather line here and drop down. So you can see how this is going to really create an interesting texture on my chicken. Now this would be darker underneath here because this would be in shadow. I'm going to come in here and add a few more lines. You can blend in, add a little bit more feather texture, and then we'll come up here and add a little bit more. less water this time. It's kind of fun to use the paint right out of the tubes. It's going to react differently. There's a little bit more pigment when I'm picking up than I normally do, but it's creating a very interesting texture into my chicken as I'm painting this. I'm liking the way it looks. I can come on the front of her chest here and make a few more feather marks. Pick that up a little bit, blend it together. That looks all good. I'm really loving the way she's coming together. Let's work a little bit on her feet. So I'm going to take a little bit of this brighter orange, but I want to put a little bit more blue into it. Now let's put a little bit of this red on, and the red was crimson red. Now if I wanted to settle this down a little bit, I could always add a tiny bit of green to it to soften it, or add a little bit of my brown. Now those colors are wet, so I'm just going to tap a little bit. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my orange here, and I'm going to tap that in the base and kind of charge that color a little bit by adding that orange in there and letting it kind of draw itself up into the other wet areas, and then that will create its own little color as well. So I'm going to come in, add a little bit of it here. I'm going to try to leave a little bit of white in there just as a highlight so my beak doesn't get all the way solid. So I'm trying to leave a little bit of the dark or the light on there. A watercolor paper, depending on what you're using, will tolerate more scrubbing than others, but this is the Canson brand paper, so I could do a little bit of scrubbing on it, but if depending on what paper you're using, you might not be able to scrub as much as you can on some other papers. Let's go ahead and do some little bit of like little splitter splatters. Let's pick up a little bit more of my color that I've got going on here. I've got my brush loaded, and then I'm just tapping it with my color. So I'm wetting them down, creating, and then popping in some of these little texture that way. Now you could also take a sprayer, which I do have one here. Whoops. And I could spray this lightly. It's kind of a, it's not so much a mister, but it's a light spray. I'm giving this some more spritz, and I'm even adding more water. And let's see where this goes. I'm liking the texture this is creating, and let's see where this picture ends up. Okay, now that we've gotten it dried and I forced it dry by using heat, it's time to add a little bit more pen work to create some structure on my little hen. She's got some great, beautiful texture happening with the watercolor and just a fun look. But now it's time to add a little bit more structure to my feathers. And I'm going to be using a continuous line technique to be able to do this. So I'm going to use a 0-1. And I'm going to start with my feather patterns here. I'm going to show you as I continue on. I'll show you a little bit close-up view of what I got going on there, some of my line work and how it's creating the feather look. Now I'm going to be working on her head next. Now I do have her little feathers drawn there. I'm going to change up the texture here and this part of her eye, and I'm going to make it more kind of a little bit more crinkly and creating a little bit different look here. So creating a little bit more of a crinkle look. Now let's work a little bit on her eye and bring her to life. I did draw a couple areas for catch lights. I'm going to do 2 catch lights in her eye, one that's up high and one that's a little lower. I like doing scribbling it in if I can. I like the little bit more of a uneven look than if I can just, instead of adding the pen work. But I can always add in a pen if I lose the white. So I've got her couple little eye bright there. I might want to brighten them with my Uniball pen, but we'll see at the end. Now let's work a little bit on her beak as well. And I'm going to be adding same kind of some crinkly bits. I'm going to switch up my texture here on her chest just a little bit. And I'm going to do the same type of texture on her chest. Again, not going everywhere, just choosing some spots where to add my texture. And let's come back in here. Continue on. Again, kind of choose areas of which way you think the feathers might be growing and add your textures on that way. My style is more of a sketch type of look, hand drawn, sketchy kind of vibe to it. You can be more exact if you want to, but this is just what I like to do. Loose lines and not exact. Okay, she looks great. Let's put some line work down here on the ground to anchor her a little bit. That's done. She's a pretty little hand. I love that little movement texture. I'm loving all the pen work, the continuous line. She's a great, kind of really nice artistic vibe to my little blue hen. Like I said, I don't know if there's blue hens and you could make her any color that you would like, but I think she's darling. And every time I do them, they do turn out slightly different. So they're never the same twice. And this little gal is different than my first one. I didn't do as much water splashing in the background. This one I did add that more dramatic background and I kind of like it. I really do. Well, that is it for today, my friends. Thursday, I'll come on with another. I usually have 2 videos up a week, and I will be continuing on. And I think I'm going to be doing a pig family. The next one we're doing a little series of farm animals. And so I think that's what I'll be doing next is a little pig family. So hopefully you'll come back and see me again. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd love for you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you will know when I have a new video up. Thanks everyone for joining me. I so appreciate all the thumbs up, all your comments. Leave me a comment. Let me know what farm animals you might want to see next.